Thinking of moving to Seattle, Washington? Well, here are 7 reasons why Seattle sucks. Let's start off at the top of our list. Coming in number 1, in the number 1 spot, we have squatters' rights and tenant laws. You may have seen lately on the news many different stories popping up all over states like California, Washington, and New York, where squatters move into a home, then they end up living there, claiming rights to the home as their own property, and then it's impossible or nearly impossible to move them out. Well, welcome to Washington State, because that's what we have over here. We have plenty of squatter rights and very little landlord rights. Now, I understand if it's a big corporation that owns thousands of rentals and we need to put some regulations on them. But when it comes to small landlords such as myself, if I have 2 to 3 rentals and a squatter moves into one of my rentals, it could destroy me financially, because if somebody's moving in, I'm not getting the mortgage paid for that property. I'm paying my own mortgage, right? And maybe covering the mortgage of another rental I have. That could lead down a bad road, so to say. So one thing that really sucks about Seattle is when it comes to the squatters' rights. Like I said, usually squatters have more rights than landlords, and it's really hard to get them out. I know some landlords that encountered squatters where it would take them between 6 to 10 months to actually get them out of there, because there's only certain times of the year that you can evict them. So if you are a buyer who wants to buy a home here in Seattle, and you're thinking of maybe renting it out a year or 2 from now, just know that while you will get high rental rates because the job market here is strong amongst many other things, if you do choose to become a small landlord owning 1 or 2 rental properties, you might need to save up a big enough reserve to protect yourself from those instances. Number 2 on our list as to why Seattle sucks is the homelessness and the drug crisis. We have plenty of fentanyl overdoses happening throughout the year. I think this year, in the first 1 or 2 months, we had more deaths than we had like all of last year, if I'm not mistaken. Saw an article somewhere about that. So it's crazy over here. There are certain parts of downtown Seattle where you will literally see streets lined with homelessness, lined with tents, homeless people, drugs, violence, and those are areas I try to avoid, okay? You will get some property crime the closer you live to downtown, but if you are out in the suburbs, you are generally considered safe when it comes to living in the suburbs, because you see very little homeless activity out on the east side and beyond. On the west side of Lake Washington, where Seattle is, you will get a lot more of that activity. Now, coming in number 3 on our list, one other reason why Seattle sucks is because of the high cost of living over here. As we covered in one of my recent videos, for me personally, just personal expenses, not business related, it cost me just under $8,000 to live here, and that's paycheck to paycheck. So if your paycheck is $4,000 a month and your spouse's is $4,000 a month, yeah, that's essentially will cover just the bare minimum for you to live here in the Seattle area. And of course, it depends where you live, but generally speaking, that's a good budget to expect. I have a lot of buddies both in the real estate field and out of the real estate field, maybe the contracting world, where their expenses are very much similar, between $7,000 to $8,000. So if you're not expecting to pay that amount of money just to live here, you might want to consider a different state. Now, the 4th reason on why Seattle sucks, and this really does apply to the city of Seattle, I would say, is when you're going north in the mornings, there's traffic enough to probably put you out of the day for at least a solid 2 hours of traffic. If you're coming, for example, south from Tacoma all the way to Seattle, you might even spend 2.5 hours in traffic. And on your way back south, you'll also spend 2.5 hours in traffic. So can you imagine being stuck in traffic 5 hours or 4 hours throughout the day? The average Washingtonian spends 55 hours a year in traffic. And that includes everybody in Washington, even people who live way out in the suburbs. If you live in the city, I guarantee you that the average time you spend in Seattle, traffic is significantly higher. So unless you got a helicopter to fly to work where you can avoid that, you probably want to factor in traffic as a consideration when moving here to the Seattle area. Now, coming in fifth on our list, one of the reasons why Seattle sucks, and this is also a benefit in some ways, is the high dependency that Seattle has on the tech industry. I'm giving you a live example coming in hot off the press last Friday. I had a client call me up and he says, "Hey, Andre, we would consider moving out of country because, as you know, what's happening with the tech industry." He's like, "I got laid off twice this year, 2 times. It's only, April 1st. April 1st. He's like, "I got laid off twice already this year, and I can't be in an area with such volatility. So I'm thinking of moving out of country over to India and either selling or renting 2 of the houses that I have here." And we're working up an estimate for him on what it will even cost to sell if he does sell. So these kinds of stories are popping up all over the place. In COVID, I had a client also reach out to me and he said, "Hey, I'm worried about getting laid off. I'm not going to be buying a house right now." So you being in the tech industry is great. I think it's a solid job, but with a lot of revolution happening around with AI right now and many other things, these might be some of the factors that you have to consider. The 6th reason why Seattle sucks is because there is very limited affordable housing over here. If you want affordable housing, prepare to be spending 3-4 hours, probably one way in traffic if you're working out in the city. I feel like the only way affordable housing here is possible is if you have a remote job. That's it, because you can live out east in Eastern Washington, like in Yakima and Tri-Cities, and there's housing over there for like 200 grand, 300 grand. It wants some land, right? Close to a small town where you can do some shopping, own a few horses, and that's it. Like, that's pretty much our limit of affordable housing, especially with high interest rates right now. I mean, shoot, for a $500,000 house, if you're putting like 5% down, your payment's gonna be like $3,500, $3,600, $3,700, depending on your credit as well. It's absolutely insane. So if you want affordable housing, you have to be out somewhere in Eastern Washington, in the middle between Spokane and Seattle, to get some amazing house prices. Otherwise, you're out of luck. And the 7th reason why Seattle sucks, and our last reason, is overall safety concerns. And I'm not just talking about for people, but for small businesses. My buddy owns a small business in Seattle, in the heart of Capitol Hill, and he has to deal with homelessness and violent activity from time to time. My other buddy who lives in Ballard and works in Ballard, same thing. He's a small business owner. He has a small gym, and there's constant, and again, this kind of ties into our earlier reason back at spot number 2, but there's because of the homelessness activities, with that comes crime, and with a lot of it has to do with property crime. For instance, people taking a whiz on the sidewalk, and you're walking in to get your shoes, at your local, to get your shoes fixed at your local shoe cobbler place over here in Capitol Hill, and then boom, you get a knife with a whiz. a knife with Sally sells seashells by the seashore.
Oh my god! Wow!
A nice whiff of whiz. You get what I'm saying? And it's not nice at all. Then there's like people sleeping literally in front of your doors. So to open up your door and unlock it for the business, you have to like push them along or ask them to move. And then that really throws customers off as well when they're walking in, especially if they're first-time customers, even though they've been around Seattle, seeing like, dang, there's a homeless person like literally right by your entrance. You're kind of afraid if they're gonna attack you or something like that, because there's a lot of mental health issues going on in the homeless community as well. And I'm not saying I know how to resolve all of this. I'm just telling you the reality of what it's like to live here. That's it. So if you're looking to move to Seattle, I'm here to help. I'm here to help you buy a home, but I would highly recommend it if it's maybe in the suburbs for the reasons listed in this video. Otherwise, if you're a city person, we got a nice video coming up on the nice sides of living within the city of Seattle, the sights to see. If you're visiting as well, you can check out the video coming up in a few weeks. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys in the next video. And if you're looking to move here, don't forget to scan the QR code or book a Zoom call with us, and we'd be happy to help you make that smooth move over to the Seattle area.